Welcome to the Primo's Musings podcast.
Good evening. This is Sri here with the recap of the men's semifinal at the French Open and also a quick preview of the women's singles final tomorrow between Swiatek and Paolini. So yesterday, Dr. Dan and I did our picks for both the matches, the semifinal matches between Alcaraz and Sinner and then Ruud and Zverev. And we both did say that we were very conflicted in terms of who we wanted to pick in these matches, and we made our picks, and it turned out to be that Dr. Dan was right on one aspect where he picked Alcaraz over Sinner, and I was right on the other matchup, picking Zverev over Ruud. So that tells you how close these two matchups were. So let's start off with the first matchup between Alcaraz and Sinner. And as both Dr. Dan and I mentioned yesterday, this something we could not have watched live due to our work schedules, but I did get to watch a lot of the highlights and also the post-game interviews from both the players as well. And Alcaraz and Sinner prior to this match were tied at 4-4. They played each other in the U.S. Open. Now they played each other at the French Open. Both of them came in with a lot of doubts about their health. Alcaraz with his forearm and Sinner with his hip injury. But did they play to their potential? I think, it's tough to see at that level. But to me, in the first set, Sinner was really dominant. Came up with some incredible drop shots, and then came back with some excellent down the line shots against Alcaraz and won the first set at 6-2. And this actually happened even in the Indian Wells tournament, where Alcaraz lost the first set to Sinner 6-1, and then came back to win it in 3 sets. Almost a similar story here, where Alcaraz in the second set got the early break, kept the early break, and you could see him serving excellent, serving wide and coming to the net. And while there were a lot of good long rallies, Alcaraz with his typical drop shots and moving Sinner all around, I definitely think that you could see that the hip was maybe bothering him a little bit. Again, no excuses for Sinner losing this match. All credit to Alcaraz, but you could definitely see at that level, even a slight movement could be the key there. And Alcaraz won the second set at 6-3. Third set, Sinner bounced back pretty well, and again got the early break and kept the pressure back on Alcaraz. Won the set at 6-3. The fourth set, again, going back and forth. It was almost like a pendulum back and forth between these two players. It tells you how close they are in terms of their skill level, their preparation, their stroke making. Definitely you could see that Alcaraz was much more energized in the fourth set, picked up from where he was in the second set, and then won the set at 6-4. In the fifth and final set, right in the first game, Alcaraz was able to get the break, and that is all he needed. And then he kind of kept the pressure back on Sinner. Again, Sinner did look a little out of sorts in the final set. Alcaraz continued to serve well, move Sinner, whipping his forehand. His forehand looks pretty well. A lot of long rallies in the fifth set, but Alcaraz, had every shot in his arsenal and kept the pressure back on Sinner, and definitely seemed like, once he went up to a 3-0 lead, kept the lead at 4-1, and it was, it was 5-3. Sinner had a chance to break back, but Alcaraz was able to, stave off a big comeback from Sinner and win the fifth set at 6-3. So this is Alcaraz's first French Open final, and it would have been the first one even for Sinner. So either player would be doing the first, except for I think in the semifinals only Ruud had made it all the way there. So that's where we are with Alcaraz and Sinner. Excellent match, but Alcaraz was definitely a tad better than Sinner in this matchup. Going to the other matchup between Zverev and Ruud, Ruud started off very hot. Jumped onto a very early lead, 4-0 lead, broke Zverev. But Zverev again showed throughout the tournament, despite losing his first set in some cases, comes back very strong in the second and third sets. And that was the story of the day between those two players. Zverev looked incredible. The first set, Ruud was definitely on top. He had every stroke going for him. He served well. He moved Zverev all around the court and hit some amazing shots down the line in the first set. But once it came down to the second set, Zverev was able to take a step back and really play to his strengths. I think Dr. Dan and I mentioned that Zverev is a player who is definitely not only has won a tournament on clay court this season, he's actually been playing excellent tennis throughout the year. And he didn't disappoint in the second, third, and the fourth set. He was constantly in Ruud's face, kept the pressure back on him. The third set was more competitive, but the second and the fourth sets didn't look really competitive, with Zverev dictating the pace of the game, dictating and putting a lot of pressure on Ruud, and never let Ruud settle down the last two sets. With that, Zverev makes it to the final. This is actually a rematch of the matchup they had in Australian Open, where Zverev was just on another planet, pretty much destroyed Alcaraz in the first two sets, and I had a chance to watch it. And Alcaraz came back, but Zverev got the better of him at the Australian Open. So it's going to be Alcaraz versus Zverev in the Australian Open final on Sunday. It's a great matchup. Really looking forward to watching this match on Sunday. So, excellent run for Sinner as well as Ruud in this French Open, but I'm sure this won't be the first time a lot of these players will be facing each other on the surface, or even in any other Grand Slam. Now let's pivot to the women's singles final. Yesterday we had Iga Swiatek, easily beat Coco Gauff 6-2 and 6-4. Coco, in fact, did mention that Iga is playing at such a high level. Even in the article that I read in the Wall Street Journal about Iga, she's definitely in a zone. She's bageled, except for the second round match that she had against Osaka. No player has come close to even touching her. And I think Iga has been consistent. She's got like 3 bagels, I believe, since that second round matchup, and she's on total cruise control. One of the things that Goff did mention was that her record against Iga was 1 out of 12. So that shows you how dominant. It's just a bad matchup problem for Coco. I knew going in that Swiatek would be a big problem for her. But that Iga Swiatek moves on at a young age of 23, moves on to the finals in French Open. And she faces Paolini, who played against Andreeva. We've been talking about Andreeva being the new phenom in women's tennis. And Paolini's actually played okay, but she's actually played well in spots, but not in a consistent basis. So, she did take care of in the previous matches. Paolini was able to take care of Rybakina. I thought Rybakina would be here in the semifinal, but credit to Paolini for not really beating Rybakina, but also stopped the red-hot Andreeva, who beat Sabalenka in the quarterfinal matchup. So 6-3, 6-1, Paolini gets an easy victory over Andreeva. Now, let's go to the final tomorrow. And I think we did make this comment yesterday about Swiatek being not just a complete player, she's just in a zone. So I really don't feel that Paolini has a chance against Swiatek. I think Iga is going to rumble through this French Open. Even if the first set may be close affair, but once Iga gets the lead in the first set, just watch out. This match could be over in less than an hour and 10 minutes or so. And that's what she's been doing ever since that second round matchup where she was down 2-5 against Osaka. But ever since that, she has just been a total juggernaut. I mean, has not given chances to her opponents, winning matches and by only giving 10 points, losing not many games, in the last few matches. I mean, she's just been incredible. I mean, even beating Von Rusa with another bagel, 6-0, 6-2. So, she's just in another stratosphere at this point in her young career, and she could be the female version of Nadal in the French Open. I don't think anybody stops her except if Rybakina or a solid Sabalenka plays. And who knows? Maybe Andreeva would be the one being her contender. But until then, it is the Swiatek show that we'll be used to on Saturday. But this could continue in the future as well. So with that, we have a wrap up for the men's semifinal as well as the women's final preview. Thank you again for listening and have a good night.
Thank you for listening. Primo will be back soon.